Hello fellow woodworkers and makers of great things, welcome to my shop. If you were tuned into my video recently on mortising with a router, I introduced the Festool 1400 plunge router to the task. Didn't have a lot of experience with that particular router. Had it a couple of years, but frankly didn't use it much. I don't use large handheld routers that much. I use palm routers, Bosch Colt, quite a bit, for some finer work. But so I got it out, and I mentioned the fact that it was a little awkward, I thought, with that horizontal handle to make a plunge cut in the left to right direction, which is the direction of preference when you're using an edge guide on a router, right? A plunge cut makes a push cut and a climb cut at the same time, so each side of the router cutter is touching each side of the stock, and so there's a little climbing action on one side, there's a little push action on the other side, and the resulting effect is that when you're moving left to right, that effect tends to pull the fence closer to your stock. When you're moving right to left, that effect tends to push the fence away from the stock. So moving right to left, you have to be very careful, exercise considerable force against the fence to make sure that everything stays straight and tight. It's very doable. It's not a deal breaker. But I thought what I'd do today was take a little closer look at that, show some differences and similarities in the Festool 1400 compared to a traditional plunge router, and maybe get some advice from you guys. Again, I'm relatively new to this router. I think some of my difficulties have to do with 30 years of using a certain type of router and certain type of handhold and having to change and adjust. So maybe that's part of it. But if anybody has experience, with that sort of thing, please chime in. Let me move the camera. We'll take a look at what I'm talking about. So here we have the two routers. One is obviously the Festool OF 1400 that I've been talking about. The other is a more traditional plunge router. It's a Porter Cable 690 series, and if you're as old as me, back in the day that was the standard router for every shop. Any shop of any seriousness had a 690 or two in the mix. This one's pretty old. It says proudly made in the United States of America on it still, so you can get an idea how far back that guy goes. And you can see it has a traditional router grips on the plunge base. It also comes with a D handle base, so when you're not plunging, you can make pretty securely held passes with this router and anything you're doing. So like that about it too. But let's compare it to the Festool 1400, and the best way to do that is to say there is no comparison. This is a far superior router in virtually every measure. Just look at the heft of the fences. This router takes 5 different tools to set up and adjust, and it still isn't easy. This router takes 1 tool. It's a 1 wrench to lock the cutter in. You don't even need the second wrench because they got this great ratchet system here that allows you to tighten or loosen the collet. The handhold positioning down here is awesome. The dust collection is awesome. This has no dust collection. The turret system is a lot smoother. Just everything about it is superior. I've got variable speed, and just the overall adjustability, quality, power, everything is superior. I'm sorry. The difference that I'm talking about is in this horizontal handle grip. It takes some getting used to. There's nothing wrong with it, and I'm not trying to be overly critical of a very great tool, but it does present a difference, and it does present a little problem for me anyway. So again, if you guys can help me if I'm doing something wrong, let me know. So what I'm going to do now is set up a piece of stock and show you what I'm talking about in terms of plunge cutting, and by plunge cutting I'm talking about making a groove or a dado across the edge of a board, or making a mortise in a board where you are plunging and moving the router along. So let's take a look at that. Let's start by seeing how the traditional plunge router works here. This router has, again, the traditional grips. You can grab this, you have equal control with both hands because the way these knobs are set up, I've got enough of a thumb wrap here that this hand can move easily in either direction, and then the same way with the left hand. So when you get on these grips, you're in full control of the router. When you make your plunge and move through your work, you're in pretty much control, moving in the left to right direction. Right? So that's your traditional kind of grip and movement. The on-off switch, you can't see it, it's right under my left thumb here. I can reach it while I'm holding the handle. The plunge action is this lever over here, and I can also move that while I'm holding onto the left handle to plunge, and everything is within reach when I take this. Let's look at the Festool. When I've got the router engaging the work and I want to move in a left to right fashion, I've got a horizontal grip on this handle, and this has to be my primary grip because this is the power trigger right here. So I've got to control power with my right hand, so it's the primary grip. And then the left knob is up here, and it controls the plunge action. So this knob, you're not seeing it, but it spins right and left. When it's to the left, I can plunge to work. When it's to the right, I can lock it in place, turn to the left again, bring it back up. And I'm moving in this direction. And as you can see, that doesn't seem to me to be a natural way to move this arm and control with this arm. I can push from the left, but that right hand is somewhat compromised, I think. I also feel with this grip that I have a high grip, so I don't have as much feel for the plate on the table and the fence, edge guide fence into the stock as I would on the other one. Alternate grip, okay? I can use my left hand here. Now I've got better low control, and I think that's a better way to go left to right. Still not as stable as I like it, but a better way to go left to right with this router. So see there, it just seems, you know, a little tippier, a little less stable, but I guess that's a good thing. What I'm doing here is I'm pretty much moving sideways like a crab, right? I'm keeping my body kind of parallel. If I get too much over here so I can push through the work, then I'm really compromising this right hand. It's really twisting, and I feel less secure. So you almost have to stand parallel to it, push in and work this way, like a sideways type of movement. Maybe that's okay. Maybe that's the way it's designed to work. I still don't have control of my plunge. I can plunge with my right hand. I can't lock it without releasing here and turning the knob, or releasing to loosen the knob. So I'm not going to be able to plunge the router and lock it for the duration of the cut. I'm going to have to rely on holding the router down with my right hand as I work through the cut. So that's, you know, that's the getting used to thing I'm talking about. That's the awkwardness that I'm talking about, if indeed you want to move left to right on the cut. Now what I was doing, if you didn't see the mortising video, was I was making a right to left cut. And I felt that putting the dominant hand here and pushing in that direction was much more natural. That's how I'm planing, that's how I'm sawing, that's how I'm doing a lot of things, right? As opposed to this type of thing. In that direction, as I said, the rotation and the effects of the cutter want to push the fence away from the stock. And so I was allowing for that by using good force on this handle. I guess that's why they put such a nice substantial handle on this router, or maybe it is. I'm kind of guessing here. But I would use this hand to hold the fence against the stock, this hand to drive the router, and it was pretty controlled. You couldn't slip at all. If you let pressure off this left hand, it would start to creep away from, pull the fence away from the stock. So again, it's not impossible to do, but you do have to be very cautious of it at all times, and just make sure that you're keeping good force here. So one of the viewers on the mortising video, I think it was Jim, said, "What if you move the fence to the other side of the stock?" So let's give that a go. I'll reset the router and be right back, and we'll take a look at that option. Figured I'll show you guys what I'm doing here. The Festool has a release knob here. Once you loosen that knob, these fence rails slide right out. I'm going to turn this around, reinsert the fence rails, and then I'm going to retighten that knob. That knob is here. So now I've got my fence on the opposite side of the router. Now, nothing in the Festool directions says that this is okay. It doesn't say you can't do it, but when it shows you how to install the edge guide, it clearly states that it should come in from this side, not from that side. But make your own decision on that. If I'm breaking the rules, I'm breaking the rules. It seems very secure. I don't see any real problem with it, but it's not in the manual, so you're on your own with this one, guys. Let me move the camera. We'll show you some positions with this. Okay, let's look at the fence on the opposite side of the cut. Now, with the fence on this side, I can use my right hand in this normal position again. That's the position I like. That's the position that feels more comfortable. And I'm going right to left from where I'm standing, but the edge guard is moving left to right on this side of the stock. So the cutting effect of the router bit is pulling the fence to the stock. It's not pushing away like it does on the other side. So again, I'm right to left here, but the fence is left to right over here, and you kind of settle for both, solve for both issues that you want. Good grip, good control, pushing the router through the work, but you're still making a left to right cut. Now, to get the best use of the router, you want your left hand on this control knob so you can lock the plunge. But again, I feel that's an awkward, not awkward, but everything's about this movement, right? But this hand doesn't seem as stable and secure way up here. I've also tried it now holding the base of the router with this hand and getting some good stability that way down near the base, using this hand to drive and making this type of a cut on the opposite side of with the edge guide on the opposite side, and that feels really stable and really good. But there's one more thing to consider. Up until this point, I've been making a pretty basic assumption, right? This is your primary grip. You tend to want to grip it with your primary hand. I'm a righty. Bang. But what if we let that go for a minute, move the fence back to this side of the stock, and think about making the left hand your primary hand and your right hand the guide hand, and going through the stock in this direction. Now I'm moving left to right, but I don't have that awkward reverse grip. I don't have my dominant hand driving the router, but I'm fairly good lefty. So I can now do this and push the router left to right in this reverse position. I've got the front of the router over here now. I got the fence on backwards, but the rotation is correct. I'm cutting in such a fashion that I'm pulling the fence to the stock left to right, and this feels like a really good way to do it. It's similar to the other router, the only difference being that I don't have this low vertical grip. I have one horizontal grip and one kind of knob grip, but it doesn't feel bad. I don't like it up here. Right, again, I'm too high and right, and you just tilted when I pushed, right? I need to have this feeling of the router plate engaging material, the fence engaging material. I can get it like this, with my hand like this. I feel really good. And, oops, I'm engaging the work, hang on. Or I get it like this, where I'm holding onto this nice secure knob and working through the board. So those are some of the grip options that you can adapt with the Festool OF 1400. Again, you know, maybe someone from Festool will see this and reply if it's okay to reverse the fence like I just did. I think it's a good idea. I think it's pretty secure, but you know, maybe there's something I don't know. So why don't I reset, plug it in, and I'm going to make some cuts in those various formations so that you can see how it works. Hey, since I've got the fence set up on the opposite side, the reverse side for now, why don't we start with a couple of those cuts first. We'll see how it goes. We'll switch the fence around. We'll try it in the other positions, okay? Let's get that shot back on. By the way, I'm using a 3/8 inch spiral upcut bit here to make these grooves. That came out really well. I felt, sorry about that. If I had a real Festool dust extractor, this vac would be going off as I stopped. But I got a really good cut. I had a pretty decent feel by holding this knob up here. But I'm going to try it again with a little lower handhold and see if it doesn't feel more stable. Okay, Boy Genius here just made 3 cuts with the camera turned off. I'll do it again, guys. When I left off, I had used this grip. I'm going to try the lower grip now with the reverse fence position. Much better. Felt like I had much more control of the router plate in contact with the stock. Much better control of the fence in contact with the stock when I took this left hand and brought it in low. Much more so than having that left hand up here. Again, I lose the ability to lock the plunge in the full depth position, but you know, probably more of a big deal if I was making a really long groove than it is making a small groove like that. Okay, so those are my my options with the fence on the other side of the stock, as Jim recommended. Good call. Okay, let's try that cut with my left hand in the dominant position. And that was not bad at all. That was not bad at all. I didn't feel compromised at all by using my left hand. I still felt a little tippy holding up here as opposed to holding low. So let's try that again. And this time I will hold lower, and we'll see what that how that works out. that felt really good. I think that's the trick right there. That's the best one so far. I had again left hand. I don't feel any lack of control with that. You going lefty. Right hand is giving me good control of the lower portion of the router, fence to stock, router plate to stock, and I think that's the way to go. But let's get this fence back around on the correct side of the router, and let's see how it works the Festool intended way, as best as I can tell. Okay, I put the fence back on the front of the tool as per the instructions, and I'm going to try making a cut that way, and we'll see how that works out. Good. You know, again, not comfortable. It's doable. It's, you know, again, like I said earlier, you're standing in this crab position, working sideways. You're a little high. It's not as stable. I think I'd like it better down again, low position. Let's try it. And I did. That low position was much more, I felt much more in control. I'm hitting my little clamp here, but I felt much more in control with this hand down here. Even though this one is still in that sideways position, that didn't feel too bad at all. Let's go, and if you didn't see the video, let me show you how I was doing this with a right to left pass. Frankly, it worked pretty well. And it works just fine. It is something of a climb cut. There is some resistance from the router trying to push it out of your lane there, but you have so much control with this left hand on this fence knob pushing that way that you can easily overcome the tendency that the router has to want to wander left and follow that line pretty good. You can't slip, you can't lose your attention and take a little pressure off that left hand, because you will drift. And I had that when I was practicing in the beginning, but you know, it's a very makeable cut. So that is some of the ways to get a grip on your Festool router. It just takes some thinking. It takes some you know, some willingness to change what you're comfortable with when you're working with a router, and I think it's a great router. You know, yeah, I noticed that on Festool's next largest router, or the largest router they make, they're back to a 2 vertical grip handhold. You know, there's 3 Festool routers. Don't ask me the numbers. The one that's smaller than this has the horizontal pistol grip. This one has the horizontal pistol grip. They're really big, heavy duty. One has the 2 2 vertical grips, and you know, it looks like a beast. So I imagine you would need it. And that's what that's what I came up with. I hope this was helpful. Well, I hope you found that somewhat useful, if not overly confusing and making matters worse. But you know, again, it's a phenomenal router. But if there's anybody else out there who is making the switch from, you know, a traditional Plunge router over to the Festool, and has experienced similar, you know, adjustments necessary, let's put it that way, please, you know, make a comment. Let me know what you're doing, how you're doing it. you know, and maybe it will be helpful to others who also make the switch to Festool. All right, hey guys, thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next video. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.